Hello everybody, this is your professor going over a short video where we will discuss the IDE Eclipse and also write a program using a simple object or simple class and then create some objects and also see the use of getSet methods. This is one of the features in the IDE which helps us write our program. So when you start your IDE, this is what should come up, and this is where you can either change the workspace to the preferred directory that you would like to by going to browse, or you can leave it in the default workspace directory. In my case, I would like to leave it at the default space, and I would launch my Eclipse, and it should start up my Eclipse in just a minute. So here is my Eclipse editor, and of course this is something that I can get rid of by changing my configuration where it does not start up with this or the welcome message, but I decided to keep it. So this is what my Eclipse is going to look like. So I'm going to go to File, New, and I'm going to create a Java project. And I would come up with a project name, and I would say simple class. And this is my project name, simple class. I would click on Next. And here is my simple class. I would just say Finish. And at this point, here is my folder that gets created. I can right click on it and then say New and Class. And this is where I'm going to name my class. So I'm going to say Simple Student, and I'm actually using the same program that I had just used in my NetBeans IDE. Remember, I am not going to check on the public static void main because I would not like to do that. I would just like to create a class, and it's going to be a public class. I'm just going to say Finish. At this point, here is my public class Simple Student, and what I'm going to do is go and bring this Simple Student class inside. So I'm going to go over here, copy this, and just paste my Simple Student. And one thing that would come up as an error is I did include that curly brackets, and there's an extra curly bracket. So again, very quickly, this is my Simple Student where I have my instance variable, and then I created 3 constructors with 3 different signatures. One is empty, the other one I can take a parameter, in this case name, and the third one is where I can take 3 parameters. And then I have these getStudent and setStudent, and this is what I was trying to show you. So what I'm going to do is get rid of these getSet methods and show you how you can actually create your getSets. So if you go to source and if you click on generate getSetters, this is the way you or Eclipse would let you add your getSet methods. So here you go, and then I can select all, or I can select individually, or I can select all, and you can even decide if you want to get and set separately. And at this point I'm just going to generate, and this is going to generate all my getSetters. So here are my student, getStudent name, setStudent name, getStudent ID, setStudent ID, getStudent major, and setStudent major. Now I also have something over here which is my display info that I have created, and I can move this one just to make it a little easy to follow. Okay, so this is my method that I'm creating called display info, where I'm basically using some system out print line and using this get student name method that I just written over here to display the information. Okay, so here is my simple student, and what I would like to do is now create another test class inside. Okay, so I'm going to come to simple class. This is my project folder, create new, and I'll do a class, and this one I'm going to name it as public static void main, but this is going to be my test simple student 2. Okay, and I can generate my comments here, and if I finish, so now I have test simple student 2, and of course this is where I can write a little notification. I can write some comments over here, or I can write some comments saying test program to create objects and use methods. Okay, now in over here within my public static void main, I'm going to say simple student, and I'm just going to come up with my student, that's my ID, and then my student equals get student data, and this is a method that I'm going to write in just a minute. And then I'm going to write another one called display simple student, and I'm going to pass my student object that I just created. So let me go over this thing really quickly with you. So my student is an object, or it's a variable of the type simple student that I just created, and then I'm calling this method called get student data. Now this is something that I have to write. I haven't really written the method. Okay, so I can say public static simple student get student data. So this is the method called get student data that I'm calling, and everything that I get from this get student data is now going to be stored in this variable called my student. Now remember, this is going to be not a simple variable. This is one of those object references. So my student is basically a object reference to this simple student that I just created over here. So this is my simple student. So I'm creating a variable of the type simple student, if you want to think about it as a variable. So inside my simple student, I'm going to write simple student, and I'm going to create another variable called temp student equals new simple student. Now remember, this object that I'm creating called temp student with the keyword new is actually the constructor that I have defined. And if you look at the signature, this is the one where it does not take any parameters. So it is actually using this constructor right here. Okay, so this is what I am using to define or create an object called temp student. Now you will see how I will use some of the variables. So I'm calling it int ID, string name, string major, and then I'm going to use a scanner statement, scanner in equals new scanner system dot in, and As soon as I do that, that's not where I want it. I would like it to be here. And this one gives me or throws me an error. So because I do not have the import statement at the top, which I'll come back and do. And again, for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to copy the code that I have written. Basically, these are nothing but simple system out student. So let me go over the statements with you. So this is, first of all, this is my method, public static simple student get student data. So this is the name of the method, and as you can see, this one does not take any parameter. Inside, I defined an object called temp student. Okay, I created an object called temp student of the type simple student, and then I also defined some ID, string name, and major. And then I have a scanner which allows me to input values, and then I have a system out print line, enter name, and I say name equals in.next. Remember, this is my object of the scanner type, and since I am taking in a string, I'm using the method called next. And then the set student name, remember that I have a method here called set student name, and this one is expecting a string parameter. Okay, so that's exactly what I'm doing over here. So the name that I am actually storing inside my name parameter, I'm passing that string. So that set student name, and whatever name I input is now set into my temp student object. So here is my temp student object. Similarly, I would do the same thing, system out print line, enter ID. I would use the next int method to take the value in, store it in the value called ID, and again same thing, I would use the set student ID method right from here, set student ID, and is expecting a integer value to be passed in, so I pass in this integer variable called ID that I have defined over here, and then I am associating the value to my temporary object that I'm creating over here. Same thing over here. Now I'm asking for the major, taking the value in, storing it in major, and then associating the value. And this one, public static simple student, remember, this is the variable type that is being returned. So get student data is the name of my method, and this is the type, the data type that gets returned. You know, we also, and when we get into methods, you will see public static, I would say int, or public static double. That is basically the data type. Okay, since I'm returning a simple student, I'm going to say return temp student. So this is the object reference that I'm returning. Okay, and the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to write this method called display student. Okay, so I'm going to copy again the method that I've already written and say outside my method, so this is my second method, display student, public static void. Okay, it's not returning anything, display student, simple student, and then I'm going to pass an object reference called a student. So I'm basically going to pass that temp student through here. Okay, so that's basically my code, but let's see how that works. So I'm going to run it, and I say okay, and there are some errors, and I should have corrected it. So this is one of my errors, and it says import. I'm going to import it, so that should take care of that. And now I should be able to run and test simple student. So here we go, enter my name. So now I can say Johnny, enter ID, and I will say 5324. Major is physics, and here is my student name Johnny, student ID, and my physics. So what is happening is whenever I'm calling this simple student, student1, and this is how I am using, or these are the 3 lines that I'm using to take the value in. Now what if I want to take another student? I can basically repeat the same thing. I can say simple student, so that's my first object. I can say second student, okay, and then I'm going to just do the same thing and repeat it with my second object. Okay, so only thing I'm doing here is I'm going to say second student and then pass my second student. Okay, so now if I run it, enter my name, I say Lisa 4534 and major is biology. Okay, and then it's asking me for entering my name. I say Johnny and information technology. Now something that you probably noticed over here, it only took information. Since there's a space in here, it did not take the technology. So what you need to do over here is probably write, instead of next, saying next line. But that's something that you can modify easily over here. So when you're taking in, you can say next line, and that should take care of that. Okay, but what I'm more interested in showing you is that once I have this method created, okay, simple student get student data, only thing I'm doing is over here is declaring multiple objects and then basically changing the object reference. Okay, so of course if I want to do 3 student, 4 student, 5 student, only thing I got to do is change these 2 lines, add more over here and move along. And of course when we get to the in a later section, you will see that how I can then define some kind of a array and do this thing, or maybe run it through a loop and repeat the process multiple times. But that's really a simple class that I showed, which is my simple student, and then instead of and then create a main method where I basically created this get student data and stored everything in a temporary student reference right here. Okay, and then use the display student. So these are my 2 methods that I created in my main method, and I can just keep on repeating my objects over here. So now I can do my 3rd object, I can do my 4th object. Only thing I need to do is define that as my 3rd student, 4th student. Now these are all variable names, so this one needs to be my 3rd, and this should also be my 3rd, and this should be my 4th, and this is your 4th. So this is how you would just go about doing it. You don't have to repeat this process over and over again. Hopefully this explains everything to you. Thank you.